Part of Stanley's promise to honor God included his growing family at home.
He had 4 girls, and we all have Bible names. He felt like he was accountable to God for his 4 girls and for his wife, and so he wanted to do a good job.
Every morning we had family devotions after breakfast before we went to school.
We had this bulletin board with missionaries' prayer cards on it, and sometimes we were assigned a missionary to pray for, but we knew where they were and who they were.
Because there was no busing in Lima, my dad drove everyone in the neighborhood to school. They would come and had to wait in the front hallway till we were finished every morning.
So they got a little bit too.
I have a friend from high school that comments on that even to this day.
Sunday's a special day to them, and they do honor it.
You had to be really ill to miss church on Sunday. As a matter of fact, Sunday night or Wednesday. I don't think you could even fake it.
I just feel like my dad had all these rules, not only to direct us, but to protect us. So there were a lot of things we couldn't do because he was protecting us. And there were some things he kind of pushed us to do.
Dad was very strict in rules on what we could and couldn't do at school. We weren't able to be involved in some of the extracurricular things at school if they involved things he didn't approve of. It was like, this is what you're going to do, and so we did it.
It was a learning process as Stanley and Juanita tried to honor God in their family.
We did not have TV. Incidentally, at one time in our life, we had the decision to make, should we get a TV or an organ?
Fact is, we had a vote one night, whether to vote for an organ or a TV.
And the 4 of us girls and my mother voted for the TV, and so that was 5. And my father voted for the organ.
We got the organ.
Stanley also tried to honor God in his local community.
2 nights a week he would go out door to door and take Christian movies, and he would ask the people if he could come in and show them. He needed a crutch, so he used the movies, you know, and then he got so that he didn't need to do that anymore.
He thought outside the box, I think. There weren't many people in that era who used films to witness.
We had one family that he worked on so long, and he even gave him my washing machine without asking me, you know, to try and win this couple for the Lord. He tried everything.
Another way he honored God locally was to help found a Christian radio station.
Not many people would think that little Lima, Ohio would need a Christian radio station.
And still going on today, and thousands of people have been saved through that WTGN radio ministry.
Sometimes its methods seemed a bit unconventional.
The car that we had at the time was a station wagon. It was kind of an ugly turquoise blue and white.
But it had God is my partner on there or something. And Rachel said, now you take me to the bridge and we'll get out, we'll walk across the bridge. She was so ashamed of that, you know, because we had that sign on there.
I had to take my driving test in this car, and I was so embarrassed.
I think we felt a little bit like we wore Christ is the answer on our shirts.
He's for real. Some people misunderstood him at times, but I know he's genuine.
Business had never been better, and word was beginning to spread about this unusual businessman who made God his senior partner.
He became a public speaker, and this is not his nature, I don't think.
I was always shy, and that was a hindrance to me for selling.
That he would be out on the road every weekend, sharing his testimony and encouraging people to become personal witnesses for Jesus Christ.
He was sharing his life lessons with others, but soon was reminded he had many more of his own to learn.
One of the things I've been so impressed with is him telling stories on himself of things that he's done wrong.
A writer came through Lima, and he stopped to see me and said, I understand that you got a ministry of soul winning. We'd like to write a feature article about you. And I said, well, go ahead. And I gave him my best photo, and I waited and I waited. I thought they never would print the story. Eventually, I got a copy, 2 full pages about Stanley Tam that lived in Lima, Ohio. Boy, I said, this is really a wonderful article. I better get some reprints. So I got 10,000 reprints. And when I go out to speak, I'd say, be sure to get a copy of my testimony. Then when I get home, God would talk to me about it.
He began to think that maybe this was just being a little bit too self-righteous.
Well, down deep in my heart, I really knew the real reason. I was advertising Stanley Tam. And to be right down frank with you, I wanted to become a popular layman across America. I wanted people to look at me and say, there goes a great layman. It began to affect my prayer life.
Well, he's a man just like we are. He struggles with pride. You know, but it's been neat to see how he handles that pride.
He got convicted about it, and he gathered them all up and took them out to the dump and dumped them.
I said, there they are, Lord. I'll not pass out any more of those. About a week later, my shipping clerk came to me and said, we've run out of instruction sheets for the silver collectors. No, I said, we got a lot of those. I said, in fact, we just bought some. We got over 10,000 of them. I said, come, I'll show you. On the way to the stockroom, she said, all I can find is your testimonies. And what had happened, we got them from the same printer. I'd taken the instruction sheets out the city dump. There on the shelf were all my testimonies. Well, fortunately, an evangelist came through town. I told him about the situation. I said, now I got all my testimonies back there on the shelf. What should I do? He said, do you got victory over your pride? Well, I said, the Lord gave me a double dose. Not only did I thought I was taking my testimonies out the city dump, but it cost me the price of 10,000 instruction sheets. Well, he said, if you got the victory over your pride, I suggest that you go and pass them out. So I did. And then I got 50,000 the next time.
Stanley's life would be filled with many lessons. But in 1952, he learned something that broadened his vision of what God was doing around the world.
Dwight Ferguson became a friend of his, the evangelist. Dwight Ferguson said to him one day, you need to know something about missions. So he said, I want to take you to the mission field. I want to take you to Korea, let you see what's happening there.
Well, I said, if the Lord would want me to go, I said I'd go. But I had no intentions of going.
Stanley was not very excited about it. He didn't feel like he had time to go, but God began to work on his heart, and I can hear him telling the story now of how God really dealt with him.
So I said, Dwight, I can't go. Okay, he said, if you don't want to go, the Lord will give the blessing to somebody else. I went.
On this trip to Korea in 1952, Stanley got an in-depth look into an organization called the Oriental Missionary Society.
The founder of OMS International, Charles Kalman, had a burden to reach every home in Japan with the gospel of Christ. And so he had what was called a Great Village Campaign, an effort to take the gospel to every home in the Japanese Empire.
So he organized teams of Japanese, and they went and covered in 7 years, 1911 to 1918, every home in Japan, leaving gospel portions of Scripture. And the result was many tens of thousands of people accepted Christ, and 400 churches were established.
And this was the beginning of what is today known as Every Community for Christ.
He was impressed by the effectiveness of their strategy.
He went out with some of the ECC teams, and the senior missionaries took him around, showed him what they were doing in planting churches. And he was very, very impressed.
He really enjoyed what he saw. The sons and daughters of Japan were leading the sons and daughters of Japan to Jesus Christ. So that really challenged and burdened him.
And I believe without any question that really gripped his heart. And he saw as a business